morning, everyone. I am Jimena Concha. I am the Executive Director of the Interdisciplinary Center of Interdisciplinary Policies from Chile. Before starting, would like to thank Fundación Omar for facilitating the performance of this encounter. We welcome you all to the Cohesion and Innovation Plaza towards Global Transitions, an initiative of social policies of Eurosocial developed with the Center of Global Policies from the University Hurtado from Chile that aims to increase the development and implementation of public policies with a strength social and ethic component. Eurosocial, it's a cooperation program of the European Union with Latin America that promotes public policies to reduce inequality and to enhance the social cohesion in Latin American countries and in the region as a whole. It's implemented by a group of institutions with ILA responsible of this event as an area of social policies, the International Foundation for Iberoamerica, FIAP, Expertise France, and the Secretariat of Social Integration from Central America. On behalf of all these institutions, we welcome you all. Innovation and Cohesion Plaza, the social policies towards global transitions. It's a digital place that has different resources, such as this group of seminars, conversations with young people, experts, dialogues, and another group of appliances about technological transition, transformation in the world. In this context is we are holding this seminar that we have named Employment, Economic Recovery and Transformations in the World of Work, Euro Latin America Dialogue on the Challenges of Innovation in Active Employment Policies. The third of a group of three that we started a couple of days ago. And last Friday, we had another in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And today we are enclosing this group of seminars addressing one of these complex terms, which are the challenges in the world of work. I would like to greet the authorities that are today with us. Katla Delaire, a delegate of the European Union in Costa Rica. Elena Montovio, Director of the Central America, Haiti, Panama, and Dominican Republic. Silvia Duran, Ministry of Culture and Youth. Silvia Lara Povedano, Minister of Labor and Social Security of Costa Rica. We also greet to Luis Madera, General Director of Social and General Development from Dominican Republic, who will be with us by of the European Union, Anita Cetinas, General Secretariat of CISCA, Juan Manuel Santomé, Director of the European Union Eurosocial Program. We also greet all the public workers, union directors, academics, youth, students, Eurosocial team, and the team of the University Alberto Hurtado, and all of you who are connected today in the digital streaming channel from different points of the world. May all of you be welcome. Now I would like to give the word to the authorities who will inaugurate this event. First of all, to Katia Sadeler, Counselor Minister of the European delegation in Costa Rica, who will give the welcoming words. Silvia Lara Poderano, Minister of Labor and Social Security of Costa Rica, dear collaborators from the Eurosocial Program, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to me to inaugurate this seminar organized by the European Union through the Program for Social Cohesion in Latin America. This seminar is part of the initiative of this program called Innovation Plaza and Social Cohesion, Social Policies Towards Global Transitions. We address the innovation challenges in social policies to develop an active role in three aspects: ecologic transition, a working transition, and to develop social societies of care. This is the third and the last seminar of a series of seminars about these transitions, but the initiative continues with other activities. Today's seminar is focused in great transformations in the world of work, which are connected through big major processes: globalization, technological change, climate change, and demographic change. Towards the triple health crisis, European Union has developed a long-term response. The European to recover economy next generation, which is a major economic politic investment in the whole story of the European Union. This agreement aims 2,000 of years to reconstruct the post-COVID-19 world between Latin America and Eurosocial, connecting the major global challenges: climate, demographic change, and the other challenges I have already talked. Latin America is not out of these challenges. Actually, the average growth has been low, strongly depending on the international prices of raw materials with low increasement in productivity. Since 2020, workers, informal workers, women, young people, and micro enterprises have been affected. Also, we can see that the labor markets also have been affected. We can also see the important strategies of the government to fight against the effects of COVID. We estimate that we're going to have a moderate recovery in 2022. This means that, as well as in Europe, a strong and resilient recovery needs strong strategies to recover all these structures. It is important to have public policies to follow the market policies, not only to react towards new crises that have been announced, but also to respond the major global challenges that have opportunities and threats on development. We address from this perspective that the objective to trigger quality employment can be addressed through design and implementation of an innovating market policies. The active employment policies are a tool that has not been well, we haven't taken all the advantage. We need to increase resources destined to its implementation to promote public and private collaboration, to enhance that communication with production sectors, and to increase the flow in between re- demand and offer, and to help people that needs to come back to work. I also want to mention the import to enhance the qualifications of the workers through a professional training and certification of qualifications throughout the life. Your social program has collaborated throughout these years to reform employment policies expressed by the countries of the region. I would like to point to the case of Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, Colombia, Peru, Uruguay, Argentina, and others. This program that works in the double dimension, regional and global, it's complete tool to strengthen the public policies and also in the active policies of employment that offers a group of experience and good practices from Europe and Latin America. Today, we can listen from the voice of different actors how can we innovate in the employment policies towards the global scenarios that I have already mentioned. I would like to give a word also to Costa Rica for the European cooperation. Costa Rica has been a case of success from the objectives that they have achieved and the dialogue. I would like to also thank Minister Lara and all the Costa Rican authorities who are here gathered today for their support for the Eurosocial Social Plus program and their active collaboration. We are sure that this journey will be developed also with the new national management. We also wish the best to the new authorities. The European Union, also through the Eurosocial program in its new cycle, will be working side by side with Costa Rica. Finally, I would like to mention that in this long story of collaboration between Europe and Latin America, we have generated a rich patrimony of experiences that today it's even more important to defend and to project in the multilateral aspect. Thank you very much. We want to thank the words of Katia from the delegate of the European Commissioner in Costa Rica. Now we are going to listen to Mrs. Silvia Lara Podelano, Ministry of Work and Social Security of Costa Rica. Thank you. Good morning to everyone who are here and to the rest of the people who are today through the streaming. We welcome you. A couple of days ago, I was reading a book that said we live in the age of 140 characters. This is the kind of communication that we are having today. We don't have enough space for debate, for introspection, and deep analysis. This is a disadvantage because when you have only 140 characters to communicate your ideas, you need to be very effective. And to achieve this effectiveness in communication, we need to you need to radicalize your reasons, and this means to simplify them. So this we have a radicalization on the arguments, and these radicalized arguments are filled of judgment and myth. That's why I celebrate this opportunity that we have through the delegation of the European Union and all the institutions that are involved in this seminar, to have this space and to have the opportunity to have a debate and analysis in a deep eh, thought of what is happening manufacturing world, economic growth, the development of talent. And one of the emphasis of the seminar is to ask what's going on, where are we in the employment policies, but we also want to debate not from the myth, not from the radicalization and the effective messages, but from a space from the like this where we can think, we can share data, we can be conscious to understand where are we, and from a very important space that has been named Cohesion and Innovation Plaza, where we are invited. I would like to re-mention about the introduction to statements. One says it's not enough to be capable, the capacity of current working policies. I mean, the idea that we can continue with the working policies that we had in the past is not enough. I even wonder if we need to enhance them. I will speak about a couple of ideas that beyond enhance them, we need to remake them. And also, it's interesting to say that we need a lot of innovation to have an impact. This is why we're here, to be capable to have these analyses, and I will emphasize based on science, based on data, to define where do we want to go with the employment policies in the next years. This is a protocol intervention, but I will take 2 minutes because I would like to speak about, like, to give a glance on central ideas of what's happening in with employment. I cannot delve in them, but I would like to give a glance as a triggering point for this innovating debate. The first point that I would like to speak about is that it's fundamental to it's fundamental that we can be capable to place the innovation in the center of economic recovery. This is simple to say, but it's very complex because the center of economic recovery is set on economic growth. If I would have to say it, we're more in a GDP center, economic recovery, than in a job center uh, recovery. I insist because we keep betting to this model where we aim first for economic recovery, so this turns into employments. In the case of Latin America, we haven't seen that in the past 30 years, and we cannot keep thinking that now with the economic recovery is going to happen. So the first point, let's operation. Let's place the employment a not as a variation point. Like, let's see that if we are lucky to have an employment. No, we need to have employment as a starting point. This means that we need to rethink the public policy. We need to think which is the set of public policies that we will need to operate, trigger, coming from employment. That's why I insist to place employment in the center of recovery. And this is my experience in the Ministry of Work. We have a complete and absolute disconnection between employment policies and public institutionalization involved in the creation of active employment policies and productive policies. My intervention is not with the Ministry of Economy, with the Ministry of Agriculture, with the Foreign Trade Ministry. My conversation with the Ministry of Work is with Social Security. This cannot be, we cannot keep having this conversation in terms of employment policy. So I would like to emphasize a lot that a part of the innovation is because we rethink on this mix of public policies and this institutional architecture to be able to articulate employment policies with the policies of productive em- development. This is very important because in our countries, in the last 20 years, we haven't had policies in productive development because we thought that the measurements on the Washington Consensus would create an economic development turning into employment. So why did we have to create policies? Because since the market was going to be responsible, so we haven't had employment policies because they were not required, because it was supposed that employment would trigger as an economic as a consequence on economic development. Uh, I said I was not going to delve in, but if not, uh, I cannot be clear. A fourth statement which I would like to emphasize in is we are thinking to have a way for this recovery is this regularization, that we need to be flexible with earnings. We need to decrease the cost of social security for enterprises. This is a process that has been coming from a couple of years ago, and they became more important with the pandemic. What we have learned is that we don't have clear evidence showing that this kind of regularization will trigger into economic development. I would like to recommend you a book uh, that is called Regularization of Work and Economic Policy, of how the working rights enhance the economy. It talks about that the evidence shows that the working regularization improves the economy. And the advantage that we have with this kind of debates that are giving data sciences and know-how and the information that we require to be capable to see that working regularization is a good instrument of economic policy, especially during this pandemic. I would like to talk about also here that it's fundamental to review the roles of these working regularizations because most of them have been designed initially as a mechanism to protect the rights. Of course, this has to be like this, but how we think and rethink a working regularization to be an, an even more useful tool for economy and development. So we need to adapt and rethink the roles of this regularization. So I would like to also think about that. The roles of the working regularizations, not only from the point of view to protect the workers, but also as an instrument of public policy. So the ministry of all the ministers of work, we can come together and talk about this. Also, I would like to refer to a very big challenge that has to do with social security and protection. The pandemic showed the importance of the systems of social protection. They were a focus point during the pandemic. Yes, I would like also to appoint also we can see that they are being threat because as I said before, most of the economic recovery is aiming to take the financing on the social protection program. So we need to take care of this a lot. And regarding to social protection, I would like to mention also, I'm going to talk about, I am going to talk from the Costa Rica case, but I am pretty sure that Latin America also faced this program on how can we access to public health uh, services and social security because this is a design for the working security. How can we jump to a universal social security, understanding that this is a right? But I will mention that this is not even enough. And this is the debate that we are having also in Costa Rica. How can we go from the working social security to the universal social security? And I would say also, and this is the other point I would like to address, to a universal social protection. And I would like to give a warning that when I speak about universal social protection, I am not speaking about a universal income, because we when we speak about a universal basic income, we are talking about a basic salary without rights. This can be part of a social protection system, but it's not a substitution. And the basic salary uh, cannot be at, I would like to call the attention to a very big challenge that we have on this social protection topic, is that countries are in what we call today a crossing point in relation to the topics of social protection. Either we aim to have a social security, a universal social security protection and guarantee as a universal right, human right, or we go to the easy solutions to provide, protect in a minimum way. I would like to address this point because it would seem impossible, but it's in the agenda. Human talent, human talent. We need to understand that we are in a revolutionary process on learning throughout the life. It's fantastic to say, but public institutions are not prepared to offer learning throughout the life. So it's very important that part of the debate today, what's the meaning from the social policy? What does it mean to think on the agenda when it comes in learning? Also, how do we learn, and the spaces where do we learn, they go through the formal, they go beyond to the structure and scholar learning. Today we learn in any space, in any moment. The problem is, how do we recognize this learning? How can we convert these learning certifications? How can we reflect this learning, for example, in national qualification frames? And why is this very important? Because these people who are in this journey to learn, they need a passport to be able to transit throughout the different phases of life. And they need to have certified their qualifications. Also, in terms of human development, one important thing that we are rehearsing in the Ministry of Work, we have seen that we need to emphasize the competence on socio-emotional skills. You can see how it's very important to develop skills so they can go from a learning process to another one and from work to another. This requires of emotional skills to be able to cohabit and inhabit in a very different world. We really need to change this paradigm that will only be possible if we frame them in a social dialogue. Last Friday, we had a session on the economic board, and we had a question to them, to this economic social economic board. The question is, what should be the model of sustainable financing and fair to guarantee social protection as a human right to all the freelancers in this country. And of course, entrepreneurs and micro enterprises. 70% of the freelancers Costa Rica don't have an income that meets the basic income for Social Security. They are not obligated to subscribe to security, but of course they don't have Social Security. So these conversations can only be held in the frame of social dialogue. So to we need to rethink this to build a new reality, to build a new perspective, a new point of view to show the path to inspire us towards this direction. Otherwise, we are being victims of the inequity heritage, the exclusion heritage, and an excluding economic model heritage. And today we have a window of political opportunities, and we are responsible to take advantage of this. Thank you very much. We thank the words of Silvia Lara Povedano, Minister of Labor and Social Security of Costa Rica, with the intervention of the Minister of Labor and the Consular Ministry from the delegation of the European Union. We open this seminar, Employment, Economic Recovery and Transformation of the World of Work, your Latin American dialogue on the challenges of innovation in active employment policies. We thank both who have exposed very clear the frame on the dialogue that we are going to have now. Thank you very much to all of you. Before starting the first conversation panel, I would like to welcome you to download the updated version and to visit our website, plasasocial.eu. Here you can follow the seminar and you can be able to know the resources, uh, references, and other kind of resources uh, that will broaden the frame on this seminar. And also, we would like to welcome you to participate, both who are here and the people who are on the live streaming, to send your questions that you may have. You just need to raise your hand and we will give you a card when you can write your question. And we will be able to answer the questions in the time frame. Now we are going to listen Eduardo Abarzúa from the Hurtado University of Chile. He has PhD. He is also psychology, and he is a counselor on the social service from Chile. And he is an expert on modernization on the state, social dialogue, and strategic management of human resources. In He has led different implementation of strategies on these terms, and he will be the moderator on the first panel. Economic recovery and employment, where we are, contributions from Europe and Latin America on the role of activity of active employment policies. Eduardo, please. What we are going to do with these couple of conferences is to add information in terms of economy and employment from the European perspective and Latin perspective. The idea is that we are going to take only 15 minutes through the conferences, and you are going to receive some forms so you can ask questions. So after the two presentations, we can talk about the topic. Leonardo Ferreira Neves is Deputy Director of Central America, Haiti, Panama, and Dominican Republic. And we have Francesco Maria Chiotti, Coordinator of Social Policies of the European Union Program, Eurosocial Plus. We're going to start with Leonardo Ferreira Neves. You have 15 minutes, please. First of all, good morning. I would like to give the word. I would like to greet you on behalf of my director, who would like to be able to be here today, but she was not able to be here today. So I would like to thank Eurosocial and the organizers of this seminar, the invitation to participate on this space, especially focused to economic recovery and employment. I would like to start saying that my presentation emphasizes on this relation on employment policies framed in the economic recovery after COVID-19 crisis. But it's also important to talk about the transformations on the employment uh, scenarios. We have seen a group of strengths where a transformating forces that are changing the working way, like digital economy, the working relations, the demographic change and the climate change with the ecologization of economies and green employments. COVID pandemic has impacted the working world, accelerating the changes, anticipating the future, as we have seen that we have more opportunities of remote working or home office. Also, the global supply chains and the nearshoring. Latin America experienced these forces and the challenge opportunities on, on the International Employment Conference in 2019 as a orientating frame to have a more promising world, to have a world to contribute to the sustainable development and to center, to have the human resources. Economies of Latin America have been impacted by the effects of the current crisis. We can see this in the contraction on the on the raw income, very uh, way higher on the crisis of 2009. We haven't recovered the employment market on Latin America and the Caribbean after this crisis. To 2022, we have a very low protection that threats the employment areas since uh, it has been affected a lot in comparison with the last year. We have reached a minimum historical about 26 million people lost their jobs. On the other hand, in the third quarter, we had recovered 90% of the job lost in 2020, but we need to recover 4.2 million jobs that correspond to women. We also have a high rate on informality and unemployment, especially among people, 12.4%. Half of the people find informal jobs, and the partial recovery has been led by the informal growth. That's why the employment policies need to be centered on people. Quoting statement of the OT, who voted the resolution that calls a worldwide call to action on the recovery of the crisis caused by COVID-19 to be sustainable and resilient. This call offers a set of strategies to build a new future after the crisis on four dimensions: economic growth, inclusive employment, protection of all the workers, and universal social protection and social dialogue. This calls to center in the generation of employment and the importance to have a national employment policies that include the development of sustainable enterprises, maintenance on continuous incoming and training and permanent learning, and the transition on the formal economy. The frame of employment policies offered by the OT refers to a comprehensive address that connects institution policies to be based on information systems and social dialogue. Among these institutions and working policies, we have the active policies that operate in the offering and the connection between passive strategies oriented to protect the income. And facing the crisis on COVID-19, the economic recovery strategies aim to recover the existing intervention and the employment recovery. It's very important this frame the development and modernization of the employment services to contribute to identify the request on training to be able to orientate each individual. We need to trigger the public services of employment to be able to address a gender point of view to offer jobs both genders. We need to to enhance the integrated data management and the strength on the alliances for employment among institutions, enterprises, and employers. Among the roles on public's employment sectors, we also need to guarantee the access to laboral market through counseling, the adaptation of skills through the active working policies to be able to offer the connection with the laboral market and the laboral market as an important asset. We also need to connect with the social protection policies and the passive strategies to protect the social security. The management with the private sector and other suppliers of job openings, the active policies and the public service of employment, where you can find more information on the different reports of the OTI in Latin America and the Caribbean. They have basically worked on the different phases of such context. First, in the stabilization of the crisis, giving immediate strategies to keep the job and to be able to offer unemployment insurance and also money transfer on most of the countries, practically in all of the countries, with a huge challenge on sustainability. We also have we we have also had strategies to avoid the loss of job, to keep the connection with the laboral market, and it's quite important the information on the laboral field and also the hiring services and connection with essential industries. And then in the reactive and the recovery phase where we are now today after the crisis generated by COVID-19, with interventions to contribute to the active policies on employment service, also to create employment through the policies on temporary work, hiring, and incentives to hand working and to support the job placement. Thinking on the future of the active policy as and their possible innovations, we can highlight the alliances on the integrated service of that allow a more proactive strategy to generate the transitions. And here it's important to develop the green and digital skills and the public employment service, such as point of access to service orientated to facilitate the job placement. It's also important in the frame on the to consider the gender equality and the innovation on financing for active policies on labor market, especially pro- with social protection and to be able to for access to the protection funds available in different countries in the region and to be able to have more social protection, also to invest in shared costs associations with other suppliers and employers to train on skills and integrated management on data and the necessary investment and monitoring and evaluation on the labor policy, and to enclose some aspects on public employment services framed on the national policies. These active policies and the public employment services should, among other things, to ensure people to be connected with labor market and to have young people on their labor market and then have a a milder to a formal job, and also the demographic bonus, but also with the gender bonus and the participation on of women. It's it it needs to increase still. It represents a very important gender bonus that needs to be a target on the employment policies, and also the adaptation of skills to the digital market. And here it's important to project the training skills and to help to generate the transitions to new sectors, work with other actors such as worker unions, worker organizations, and the strategies to protect the income. And finally, integrate the active policies with the employment policies, including the macroeconomic and sectorial policy. Once again, I would like to thank Eurosocial for the organization of this space and the invitation to participate here. I think it's very important. As Silvia mentioned, employment needs to be the center, not as a variation, but as an instrument to achieve the sustainable development and to decrease the inequality.
Thank you, Leonardo. As I was saying, I think it's been very interesting. So let's see if we have three questions for. I'll also make an invitation for you to make questions. So please. Now I'll leave you with Francesco. So I'm also asking you to prepare your questions. Thank you very much. Good morning. Allow me to take a minute, one more minute to thank Sylvia Lara, the minister. She's not here, but she didn't only have a very good presentation. She actually reflected all of our messages that we have that didn't come out of nowhere. So they're the result of our work. She did it very well, and she did in a more deep way. But I also want to thank Sylvia Lara and the other Minister of Culture, Sylvia Duran, because they took the time to come over here despite the Council of Ministers that has been called by the President of the Republic. So we value her presence even more. And I would also like to greet Anita Cetina, Secretary General of the CISCA. Thank you for coming here, Anita. I'm happy to see you. Manuel Santomé. I'm very glad to share some time. Manuel has been directing the Euro Social Plus program. There are 3 areas. I also like to greet the colleagues of the OIT. They have always been of great help to us. So in these 3 seminars of this cycle, the OIT has always been present. I will also greet to all our colleagues, also the University Alberto Hurtado of Chile, for being part of this adventure that we call the Plaza for Innovation and Social Cohesion. Having said this, my idea was to speak to you, to talk to you about the transformations that the world of work has been suffering, and to connect these transformations to the challenges in the innovation of employment policies. Sometimes we call them, they have different names. These policies have different names, but for now we won't stop on that. Radical transformations of the world of work. Consider that the pandemic was like a suspension of a debate that many organisms had been carrying out. For example, in 2019, the OCDE had the World Economic Forum. All of these big think tanks were already concentrated on this topic, the future of the world of work. And the pandemic kind of was like a pause because we were focused on the sanitary emergency. But these transformations haven't stopped, and some have even become faster. So, and speaking about these transformations are connected to what we call the mega trends, global mega trends. Some of them have already been reminded by the representative of the European Union, like globalization, climate change or ecological transition, demographic change. I would also add as another important dimension, another megatrend is cultural transformations, cultural changes of lifestyle, preferences, and we will see it later. What I want to say is, as my main message, is that these megatrends that I just named are changing the age, are marking the change of age. We don't see it because we see it slowly. We see it. But these changes are a historical change, actually, of the history of humanity. And when a change of this nature happens, even the vision of reality and the vision of man and women change. For example, if Copernicus discovered that the Earth was not the center of the universe, and then Darwin discovered that man was not the center of the animal kingdom, then with Freud, we discovered that the man wasn't really conscious of himself. And then more recently, we discovered that intelligence is not a prerogative only, it's not only human. This is the intelligence that we've been sharing with machines. And one of these transformations in the world of work is working together, man and machine, but of course women as well. Why are we facing a historical change Because as Galimberti, who was a philosopher, said, our capability to make as humans, to be humans, is far superior to our capability of seeing the effects before time. So here we come to something which is loss of control, of a limit that we have reached as humanity. The green transition is centered on the concept of limitation and of fixing all of this excess, technical and technological excess that has led to an irreversible damage of the planet. Now we'll see the transformations of the world of work, who are connected, as I said, to these mega trends. I'm not going to say anything new. I'm just going to try to focus and emphasize these changes. The first is discontinuity of professional careers and a growing instability of employment. That jobs in the 20th century, we can imagine them, right? And we had, of course, mostly a man who was employed in a job for many decades till retirement. This model is disappearing. This reality will disappear. It's still present. I don't want to give figures or sharing excessive phrases or slogans, but it's been disappearing, and a new figure is appearing, which is what we call an atypical job. Atypical jobs. A difficulty has been appearing, so we don't see a line between working independent workers or working for someone else. There's something new appearing in the history of the Western world. The possibility of losing your job, change your job, living transitions between jobs, between job and being unemployed. Consider that a third of employments in the OECD is inscribed in what we call the atypical category. This has a very important consequence in terms of social security. These new figures, these new categories are not covered by social security, let alone Latin America, where half of workers are informal. I won't stop now to speak about the causes of this instability and discontinuity of working careers. The causes are globalization, etc. I just want to say, just going to give some more information and the conclusion of this first transformation. So economy has also changed. If you think, for example, in Manchester, which was the most industrialized city, in those years, 94 workers out of 100 were laborers, blue collars. And now only 25% of people employed in Manchester work in the industry. Everyone else works in services. This is another big transformation that contributes to a greater instability, a bigger instability and variety of the world of work, with repercussions on contracts and salaries. What are the consequences that the consequences come as a challenge for innovation? Literature calls this occupational transitions. In this case, in the center of attention are the transitions, the occupational transitions, which means to prioritize investment in services of guide services, certification of skills, training, professional training. This is the most important part of the policies for the world of work. This isn't new, but it means to focus, to prioritize this kind of innovation, the occupational transitions. Of course, I'm just going to mention it. I won't go further into this. The reform of Social Security, reforms of Social Security. We cannot continue just like in the 20th century, connecting all the Social Security with the occupational status. It's true that workers are suffering or living permanent transitions, so they can have periods of unemployment, right? Even if they're having a public support, but in this period they won't reduce. They won't have a bigger income, so their income will be reduced. So it's important to think of new paradigms of Social Security. I have to think about them too. Another big transformation of which everybody's been speaking is the evidence that our skills, our professional skills, become obsolete very quickly. This is connected to technological progress and digital economy, but not only. But different from what happened decades ago, one person in the world of work needs to permanently renew their skills. They need to renew them. Very frequently, they see the risk that what they know is not enough anymore. We have a paradox here for workers, but the paradox is that enterprises usually don't find professional profiles among young people. So we not only have a problem of obsolescence of skills, but also a problem of training of the new generations, according to these progresses that ask for an updating. So we've said before, continuous training for life. It's easy to say, but it's very complicated to do. We haven't still made the political decision of creating real systems of continuous training with enterprises. In France, for example, maybe you know, they came up with a personal individual account of training. That means that each worker has a public resource that allows them to move using the employment services to update their skills. But the message here is that we cannot continue with small pieces of continuous training. We need a big reform, which of course needs a lot of time, but from my point of view, it's a key. This is key. This is very important for me. Of course, digital alphabetization. Digital skills are key nowadays, and we are leaving out millions of people, especially informal people, small enterprises. So we have to start thinking massive plans of digital alphabetization, which will be a task of social policies. Out of all the subjects on the world of work, this is the most known, the one we know more. The machine, the robots, automation. The fear of technological unemployment is a very ancient fear. At the beginning of the 20th century, magazines already spoke about, they already said that machines would steal the jobs from us. Something is changing. The speed and intensity of change is being different. I don't want to say that that more jobs will be destroyed than new jobs are created. For example, the World Economic Forum indicate that we need balance. We're going to substitute. Some jobs will be taken by machines, but there will be new jobs. Maybe jobs that nobody can think of. For example, in 2016, that famous World Economic Forum said that we're going to lose 7 million jobs, that 5 would be created, and 2 million would be without a job. But they also said that the children that are now on elementary school are studying for jobs that we don't know yet. In the morning, I was speaking with Gloria about tattoos. A job is a new job. Millions of people that work by making tattoos. In the European Union, 12% of people have a tattoo. In Canada, 24% of people have a tattoo. Behind this use of tattoos, there's an army of workers that do this, that make tattoos. It's a job that maybe 20 years ago we would have never imagined. And there are other jobs like this, of course. Substitution. To have now, there's a balance. It's a certain balance when we say that some jobs will disappear and other jobs will appear. But we won't necessarily have a negative number. Also, the green transition comes with this too, because some factories will be closed. The production will have to be transformed, so it's not dependent on carbon, etc., on coal. In Latin America, the progress of automation won't be, and of robotics will mean an imminent loss of jobs. But in the long term, Latin America will be also living this. Maybe not now, because the cost of labor, of actual labor, is so low that the substitution hasn't happened yet. But if you see the data of the cost of robots and of the sales of robots are impressive. They're cheaper, and sometimes they're even cheaper than the salary of a person. So they have been sold more all around, not all around the world, but in many places. Consequences in terms of reforms, innovations, great challenges in the change of employment policies, especially special plans of reconversion and recollocation of workers that have been left out. Like for example, in Chile, they have been working on this in those zones where production of coal has been reduced. Also, more sophisticated systems of information capable to read the labor market, its evolution, how territories change, how sectors change, where are the opportunities, where are the dangers of losing productivity. So systems of information capable of predicting and showing the way, also to know where to carry out the training and reconversion. In some countries like Germany, they're speaking about reducing the hours of work so more people can work. But as I don't have a lot of time, I'll focus on one last transformation that we are living. These are characteristics that are affecting the labor markets in the Western world that would cause 19 big reforms or 19 lines of innovation. I won't mention them all here, but they will be in this socialplaza.eu. The increase in the average age of workers and the relationship of dependence. There's a chart here that says that the OECD in 2015, we had 4 people working for 1 retired person. In 2050, we have 2 people working for 1 retirement. In Italy, for example, this is even worse. 7 retired people for every 10 people. In Spain, 8 retired people for every 10 workers. The system, as you can see, the social security system will burst in this condition, under these conditions. It's not sustainable. And on the other hand, if in the 20th century we have a social welfare system where we think that a person will work up to when they are 60 years old, and maybe they will stop. Nowadays, we think that maybe they will work more. So what are the challenges regarding this? I'll just mention two points in this. First, thinking on how to make policies of transition to retirement, which means that older people will keep working because also the retirement age will be higher, but they will change. You'll have to change time working and their functions, their roles. This is part of the package that we call active aging. This nothing exists yet, but it will be necessary also to allow young people to have a job, for example, that old people had before. But the most important thing to face this aging and this increase in the age of workers and this relation of dependence is to make more jobs, to increase jobs. And here what the minister said before is very important. And it coincides with what Eurosocial made these years. Take the employment policies into enterprises, connect them with investment plans, with the policies of productive development. We cannot have, it's not possible that social assistance and work employment policies are together and they're not connected to other actors. They have to negotiate, they have to talk, they have to interact and collaborate with enterprises, with economic policies, productive development policies, and financial policies to generate more and more jobs. And then there will be more innovations like moving all the barriers, all the borders for women employment, or some conciliation policies. To have also dual training. If we think that dual training is a useful tool so that more young people have a job and stay there. My time's over, so I'll just jump to the conclusions. I had about 19 lines of innovation. I didn't say anything new, as you might have noticed. It's about emphasizing, about having priorities and introducing changes in policies and ideas that already exist. Now, speaking about innovation of the labor market, for this, we have to make up our mind and decide that these policies are useful and they're key. That we have answered questions to for example, what happened if there was no employment policy? Would reality change? We also have to have an answer for the great question. Does market and economic development, are they enough to create quality jobs? I don't have the answer as me. Literature and the European experience has the answer to this. The European experience, they created a state of welfare. And these are necessary policies for employment and for economic growth at the same time. Of course, making these decisions. Well, these are my last. This is my last part of my presentation. There are 5 important steps. First, the political decision, the will, the political will. Number 2, the definition of priorities, where to leave more weight, where to make decisions. Have a plan of quality and proper financing. It sounds like something simple, but only a social treatment of financial agreement will lead us to the 5th step, which is the last step. It's very, very important also, the capability to manage. Sometimes our design, our program fails because we don't have a capability of management. And I also include the management of articulating between different people and different institutions. So there are 5 steps for the innovation of the policies of labor market. It's difficult, but I think that the historical moment, this big transition compels us to take this step to have a bigger innovation, a stronger innovation in this kind of policy. And of course, for an economic recovery after the pandemic, focused on jobs to fight inequalities in the labor market. Thank you very much, and sorry for taking up longer. Thank you, Francesco. All right. We have 10 minutes, so we can have a conversation. Does anyone have questions? I have one here that I'm gonna read right away. Thinking about this panorama of employment in Latin America and Europe, what are the transitional skills, the most important transitional skills that should be carried out to help women and people and young people? That's a good question. I hope the following panels will help us to complete this answer. I think that this topic of employment and also the digital economy has to be part of a more complete work, also on the policies of employment, the necessities of training, and the advancement towards an integration of skills. The answer is in universities and training and in education. We have to have a system of education that recognizes the importance of technical training and of professional training. And this has to be part of the system of education. It has to be more coordinated. And for this, we need a national framework of qualifications to support these transitions of young people into the labor market, not only through universities. And without doubt, the permanent training, permanent learning is also very important. So I would say that for now, a better capability of analysis for the future and to know the necessities of training and education and to consolidate national frameworks for qualifications to support a system of education that integrates the importance of technical training, not just university training, but also technical training. I believe that the people have to be adapted, have to be resilient to change. But I would say now that I will emphasize on services. I'm going to take just one little example of my country. My sister-in-law lost her job and she was subsidized for 6 years. In 6 years, she didn't see any service unemployment. Today, in Italy, after a long time, we have made a huge investment on the policies of employment. So there are the services. So if a person falls in one transition, the services come up to help them right away. So there was a program, a policy. It's called Guarantee for Employability and Work, and it's based also on Latin American programs. So this guarantee makes it any person that goes through a transition is contacted and has the service for themselves right away for training, to be together with them, to relocate them. I think this is very important for transitions. The person, of course, has to be flexible, has to be open to change, has to think about maybe they will sacrifice something. But on the other side, we also need a structure of services that are capability of giving these services right away. Another question on the recovery and the capability to adapt. How do you compromise? How do you also connect this with the enterprises? How do you incorporate the sector of workers? In Latin America, we have a high participation in unions, but we also have a lot of informality. How do we achieve this fair transition to have all the actors in employment policies and the effects that this has in democracies? So this is a question: how do you do this? This is a very difficult question. It doesn't have a simple answer for it. I think that public policies have to make alliances with the productive sector, but it has to be managed by the public policies. And as the minister Sylvia Lara mentioned, that for that you need political will, more money, of course, more financing for the policies on the labor market. That would allow us to have better capability to give these services, and to help to answer to the demands of the productive sectors. There are examples in many countries where unions are also give services, training services, for example, professional training. They give intermediary service also, and it can be part of this national system of employment. I think it's not just that the private sector develops its own solutions because the public sector has failed. No. We have to incorporate all this into the territorial. I agree with Leonardo. I'll just add something. I would say that enterprises, they come to us. They come to us when they see that from the side of the policies, they are useful. They're giving useful services. It's just that. When they discover that the services can actually give a benefit, that's when enterprises feel that these services will help them, or maybe they will be more collaborative. It's just an element that I want to add to what Leonardo said. But I think that efficient services, from the point of view of enterprises, for the policies of the world of work, is also important. Here's one question that comes from our audience. We've had in this region regarding the pandemic, loss of jobs in sectors and categories of people that are vulnerable, like handicapped people, women, young people. When one focuses policies, one needs some investment and some multilateral agreements. Why do I say this? Many of these policies have had difficulties to be implemented because of the reality of migration, for example. There are people that have left their home because of the climate changes. How can we incorporate these different variables in the region? And what can we say on promoting this? Because, for example, our government in the region, the governments don't have long agreements. Sometimes we have just local agreements in regions. How do you promote regional agreements on policies of employment? Is it possible to think about regional policies of employment, or just national and local solutions? Are there any experiences on the European Union, for example? For example, saving up, or what other initiatives you have? I think that it's possible and necessary. In the European Union, we've had good results that come from the collaboration of different countries. So we now have the benefits in terms of more added value to national policies. I'll just give an example, just one last example. The X generation, for example. This big plan in the European Union to connect recovery to development. That's what we want. What we wanted with this plan. The European Commission contracted debt with favorable rates, and it distributed money in a solidary way. For example, Italy has been more affected than the Netherlands. That's like an injection of resources thanks to an regional integration. For example, also to Italy, Spain, which is another country that has had these problems. So these countries are given the resources for big reforms. For example, in Italy, we're going from 8,000 to 19,000 people that have benefited from these resources. Another advantage is that when workers can go to one country, and when they can take with them their social securities, when there are synergies in labor markets in border zones. So I don't see anything. I don't see many bad things. I just see benefits to this. In Latin America, unfortunately, after a period of integrationism, we're living a period of isolationism, and we will have to find a way to a bigger integration, regional integration. I agree with this. I think there's this potential to think in an integration of employment policies and active policies of employment services. This depends on a labor market, on a regional labor market, and in the reality, at least in Central America, which is the region that we've been more focused on, and the process of integration in Central America. Mobility is not interregional. Labor mobility is not interregional. The responses are more localized, like managing, or maybe between two countries, not as a policy, not as the regional policy of managing labor markets. But there's the potential to this. It also depends on the generation of opportunities, job opportunities in the region. After this, you need to develop policies that are also regional, and that could open possibilities to have a higher labor mobility, interregional labor mobility. But this is not the reality now. It's also difficult to prioritize regional policies when the demand is not as strong at a regional level, at least nowadays. One last question, and this will be my last question. What would the threats to employment, for example, war is one. So the resurgence of the right-wing extremism. Is there a threat like that in Latin America? Now that we're speaking about the migratory phenomena and other social processes, what are the threats? The threats that you can mention. Yes, I had to speak about the threats that public policies have. This is not easy at all. It's a world. Now that I think about Europe, but also Latin America, there is a threat. In both continents, democracy doesn't have the same strength, the same credibility that it had in other moments. This is also a threat because, like the minister said before, a lot of people can be seized by simplest messages that are more emotional than. I don't want to make it too simple, but I would just say, not because I'm European or anything. In Europe, we have good and bad impressions, so we can give also good and bad ideas. But there's something positive that I want to say about this, about how the pandemic was managed. How was something different. The crisis in 2018 was thought of only in macroeconomic at a macroeconomic level. That was the crisis 2018. But this crisis now, the European Union managed it thinking of the social dimension, protecting income, protecting jobs, and the expansion of social protection to not protected sectors. This allowed us to feel the crisis, but not to suffer in a devastating way. This double dimension, social Europe and economic Europe, these two dimensions kind of got closed, and that allowed us to resist threats. I think that's the way for people also to think that integration is important and it's worth it, and democracy is worth it as well. I would also say that we have also challenges on, on the policies of employment. We see it from the consensus of Washington till today. There's been a reduction of the policies, of employment policies. Since then, the policies of employment have been used to adjust to the conditions. Then starting from the 90s, there was a recovery of the importance of public policies and of labor market policies. And nowadays, starting from 2010 to 2020, and also in the crisis of 2019, we lost neutrality again. But the point for me is that the challenge is permanent. The policies of employment are still marginal, especially in the reality of this region, Central America and Latin America also, but especially here in Central America. So it's more of a permanent challenge more than a threat. Very much, and applause for our lecturers. We thank our lecturers for this very interesting participation that they had.
Who will be moderated by Gonzalo Graña. This roundtable is named Strengthening the Connection Between the Employment Policies and the Productive World. Topic that we have been addressing from the beginning of this seminar. Gonzalo is a program officer of Elon Center for a program specialist in equality learning for its participation in social dialogue in terms of professional training and employment services in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean, and training for young people in terms of youth employment and dual training. Gonzalo, please, it's your turn. If you would like to present who are with you, please also be subject to the time in attention to all the people who are following us in live with a different time zone and it's later. So please, Gonzalo, it's your turn. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. I am very happy to be here with you today. I would like to thank your social and for inviting me to moderate this roundtable. We have listened to the interesting presentations that have set the scenario and have placed us in an excellent place to generate the debate of this roundtable. We have listened about the active labor policies and the role of the public employment services and their intermediation processes and labor orientation, etc. We agreed that we need a set of public active labor market policy in terms of mega trends on the labor future as the challenges resulting from the pandemic and the post-pandemic. here from Costa Rica. She's mastering business management and she's specialist in finances and she has 20 years of. We also have Ligia, who is the coordinator of the training for from the Ministry of Labor from Colombia, and she leads the dual training crisis from Colombia. She's a master in labor labor law, and she's a lawyer as well. And she's candidate to obtain the PhD in Barcelona. And we have Luis Madera, who is the General Director of Economic and Social Development from the Ministry of Economy, Planning and Development of the Dominican Republic. She's a bachelor in business administration. He has a lot of courses related to sustainable development and the analysis reaction of social development. The dynamic is going to be as follows. We have a couple of questions already written that we are going to ask you in the order that I have presented you, introduced you, and I will ask you to take 3 or 4 minutes at the most, and we'll ask you especially to emphasize the innovation topics as as it is mentioned in the name of today's event. And today we are through live streaming to a global audience. So you can give examples of what's going on in your countries. So I'm going to ask you the first question that says, considering the economic recovery and the post-pandemic scenario, which are the innovations or the active labor policies that are being proposed from your ministries in Costa Rica, Colombia, and Dominican Republic? Please, Sophia, take 3 to 4 minutes to answer this question. Good afternoon to everyone. I think something important that we are talking about post-pandemic. We are facing a lot of challenges, but in the particular case of INA, we are not only facing having a new law that gives new scope to the institution, but also to face a pandemic and to look for the way to keep offering the services. So we have a typical and unique situations that require the attention, a very special attention in different sectors. Something very important that I think is very worthy to address in terms of innovation is that INA law gives us new attributions centered to design new training programs to include more people with low resources to employment and to develop programs to help enterprises and micro enterprises, even micro enterprises with that aim to export this follow non-financial follow-up to be able to keep working, but above all, be able to keep working and keep existing and export. Also, another benefit that we have is the dual training skills. It's very great to be able to have these two and to be able to articulate the needs of the enterprises with the programmatic supply of the institution and other institutions such as the Ministry of Public Education aligned with their needs, that our programs be capable to respond to this industrial revolution with the future labor markets, the needs also, even to prioritize this programmatic offering to the demand of productive sectors. Because sometimes we build the curriculum based on internal needs, but not based on the enterprise. Today we are challenging a very big, today we are facing a very big challenge, for example, to be able to transit from the textile sector centered on what the textile sector does to a medical sector. We have been able to transform, and we have about 5,000 people inserted a in an innovation coming from a traditional sector, not only to train, but also that this skilled person is linked to a job. So we need to invest in the country. So we have big countries, strong companies who give us a stability, decent work, but we need to associate our programmatic need to the needs of these enterprises. So we are innovating and adapting. We have the dual training program, the adjustment to the curriculum in very active, productive sectors, and to change the vision that the technical education is just one step for the person to keep studying. We need to break this paradigm because the technical training aligned with what the productive sector needs is aimed for a job opening. We were talking about the immigrants and the refugees, which we have incorporated in our skills, the topic of the to certificate people, because we not only have in very skilled immigrants who can have access to a job, but we also have Costa Rican citizens that haven't been able to certify. So we have the opportunity to find skilled workers to who can come to the work to the labor market and give skilled work. Ligia, what would you highlight from your ministry in terms of labor policies? Let's say in Colombia that our main innovation in this moment has been listening to this set of warning and characteristics coming from our labor market that has have to do with a structural program. We have a lot of informal we have a lot of informal jobs in Colombia. So we need to identify this set of challenges that we have, and we have decided to gather all this group of warnings and important elements in terms of police active labor policy and transform it to a integral strategy through the national qualification program. We want to link 7 elements of public policy and generate a synergy among these 7 important elements that are the 3 ways of qualification: the traditional academic way, the professional training way, and the recognition of previous learning through evaluation and qualification of skills. These three elements are related to other four, which are the normalization of skills, where we have building companies, the information platform of the national system of qualifications that will take advantage of this information that we have today that we didn't have before. And we can do data mining, data analysis to be able to identify these seven elements and generate a direct connection among these seven elements. We also have the professional exchange and training that we want to generate the ways among these other three recognition ways, generating different ways to recognize the different ways of learning and generating a very important innovation, which is a subsystem of labor training program. And this subsystem has a very important characteristic that has a mandatory requirement that all the training must be dual training. It's mandatory, and all the programs must have this characteristic. And this is what we are aiming in Colombia, not for a professional training based on theoretical knowledge, but to generate a set of skills in the labor space, strengthening the practical learning, and taking advantage of this national system of qualifications, which is a connection among the seven components, and having this one subsystem with this reference with dual education, which is one of the most innovations that we have as country. And it's already a law in the country and it's established in different decrees. And this is what we are aiming in long term. We have Luis online, and I would like to highlight the interesting point that we have listened to the National Training for Labor and we have listened to the Ministry of Labor, but we're going to listen now the Ministry of Economy, and I would like to highlight what the minister was saying. Who do we talk to? And the need to have a wide approach when we are talking about these active labor policies. That's why I am happy to have Luis here from the Ministry of Economy. And I would like to ask you, what new innovations would you highlight that are being performed in your country? Thank you, Gonzalo. As you were saying, and what we have been doing in Republic Dominican is the articulation of public policies and the development and orientation of policies that have been executed by other ministries who have their main labor in the substantial practice. We have had as a main pillar the quality of life, central pillar the employment. We have always seen employment as a fundamental column, and but we are addressing now the employment as a function to trigger the economy aligned with the productive sectors. We need to address employment demand as a whole that ends up having an effect in the quality of life of our citizens. If they have a job, they have a better income, they have a uh, better housing, better social security, and of course, we have a better security, general security. and we have access to education. Because people who work have better access to education, and if they have better education, they have better access to a better job. This is the most important topic. Then, if we if we set the employment as the base of the economic growth, then we have another way to trigger these productive sectors. We Dominican Republic has been growing sustained in the last decade, and w- but the formal em- employment openings don't have this increasement. This is why we need to connect with the manufacturing sector. We need capacity. So the first element is to select the three most important aspects. The first one is tourism, that is based on sun and sea, but it's not enough. Tourists need a more professionalized offering. So we need to professionalize the people who are involved in the tourism sector. The second sector is the industry sector that comes from uh, an industry who needs more automation. And we need to improve their skills, and we need to improve the skills of the people. So if you improve the skills of the people, then you increase your capability. So we need to target on the human resources. And the main axe is to technify and make more productive. And we need to fill the gap who are working in the agricultural sector may be able to increase their skills, their working skills. So we really need to connect with the agricultural sector and the touristic sector and the industrial sector to have a better offering of employment. I will mention some examples on the next part of the panel, but I think the great innovation is to address employment as a function and to identify and unify the sectors to work together towards the employment demand, who before were working separately. We have seen a set of interests, and I would like to address now a question who was made to the members of the last panel, but we think it's relevant for this panel, that has to do with this innovation. How do we strengthen the connection with the social actors and the unions? How do we attract the companies to all the cycle of the process of the active labor policy? I would like to listen to Ina. Well, I think a successful experience is the National System of Employment and the National Agency of Employment as a body who comes in essence. We don't have just one essence of the social dialogue and the three part, but need we have strategic alliances, the experience or the social or the UN to implement The national system in Costa Rica as a tool with three elements that gone has gone through the validation of different sectors, and with following up from different sectors and be able to act towards the needs of the enterprises and the people who are actively looking for a job. This process arises from the dialogue and continues with dialogue and features the capability to articulate job promotion, professional training, productive entrepreneuring, and also centered on the orientation, aiming that people who use the services of the National Employment Services can use it in the local, regional, and national sector, and also followed up by the different sectors that integrate the system led by, led by the Minister of Labor, and that is bringing us to the line where we need to listen to the actors and enterprises to find out which is the best path to incorporate education in the labor process and orientated to the labor market. What innovations can we highlight in Colombia in terms of involving the social actors and particularly in the industrial sector? Let's say that in the frame of the national qualification system, we have a feature that, or two features that have a very active participation from the enterprises that has to do with the normalization of skills. This means this space where people, workers, training centers structure the skills standard who will be the main cell of qualifications, and it's this space where they know about the productive needs, are giving this set of updated characteristics pertinent and that will fit the qualification. In this standardization that will come to the frame of Co- Colombia will be a mandatory reference in the training programs of the subsystem for labor training. This means the enterprise and the workers are together in the origin of qualification and execution of the training who will guide people to come to this specific qualification. In this context, for the labor subsystem, dual training, as I said before, it's mandatory. This means that the enterprise will be involved in the execution phase to adjust anything that arises in between the design and the execution of this program that will give these specific characteristic to for this training in a productive environment. We need to consider also what are the specific characteristics of the territory where we are working. So we are with the support of the Your Social Plus program, we are working on a supporting program. So our companies in the country may participate in a dual training program. Eh, this is centered in the micro and mini enterprises because uh, we have a very huge percentage in Colombia because it's easier for the big companies to find a training program with these characteristics where they can have a fundamental role to see which competence, which skills uh, acquires people who are participating of this training program. So let's say that we are a center in these companies with these characteristics, and we are working to give them these incentives that help them to sustain this apprentice who will be participating of this program. And also we are working on breaking this negative paradigm of professional training, which is a training that goes before an academic step. And we have given an access to a higher skill qualification. We are reaching this seventh level, involving the enterprises in these exercises and focusing on micro enterprises and also addressing a gender topic. We believe that this is a very powerful tool in terms of innovation. Luis, please, we want to listen to you now. I know that the Dominican Republic it's a very active country, but we want to listen which innovations can we highlight from the Ministry of Economy in terms of the participation of the social actors, the participation of the productive center sector. I can give three examples. The Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Economy, and the Ministry of Commerce, and the General Ministers of Impotep and the Ministry of Higher Education and Technology. They gather because they know they have to work together. Either we work and they have prepared the National Employment Program, which is being implemented. And I want to highlight and mention that we have the public sector environment as an active actor. And I would like to mention also that we have worked to define the National Employment Program, which includes the program that has three pillars, which are agreements with the enterprise that are made with paid internship, an agreement to pay the first 3 months of these young people with the commitment to keep them for 3 months more. So with this commitment, the young students have the 6 months required to be able to access to the working openings. And it's better for the enterprises to keep the people they train than to look for other people. We have also advanced a lot in this qualifications frame that needs a lot. It's waiting for the law to be accepted. In terms of education, the Ministry of Education and Technology has agreed with more than 30 higher education institutions the content of these programs that will be implemented the next year. And also, I would like to mention the program for employment scholarships. We have defined some groups to articulate this scholarship program. We invest in higher education scholarship programs. Now we have a process to articulate with the productive sectors to be able to identify the skills that are not in the national market, and so we can send the young people to acquire this skill abroad, and then we can bring them back to the countries to avoid the the loss of intellectual property. So we need to work on these act policies so they can find that they have a real benefit. And these are the three examples that I would like to mention. I have another I have a question before going to the next question, a personal question that I would like to ask you. And I would like to take advantage of your expertise. When we are talking about professional training in the context of professional training, we are talking about the adequation of the training needs. We have also addressed the to anticipate the training demands. We also talk about monitoring and evaluate the active labor policies and the training policies. All of these require consistent training programs and in the production of standardized programs to fit these systems. So taking advantage of your expertise, I would like to ask you about the innovation in terms of indicators in labor market to be able to monitor and evaluate and to be able to apply the needs on the work on the labor market. In the last year, we changed the national labor survey in Dominican Republic that has become a continuous survey to improve and to measure the indicators in the general aspects of the labor market. And we have increased also the research on micro enterprises, and they include different modules that allow us to identify these problems in the informal sector. Also, I would like to highlight that from the ministry, we have advanced in the system of evaluation and monitoring. This system led us to articulate the transactional systems on the state management system and planification system so we can evaluate every quarter the how is the public policies working, see my deviations on how many, let's say, how many scholarships signed. We don't have to wait to have failures, but we want to avoid the failures and to increase the periodicity to monitor, since it's helping us a lot to identify the gaps and to be able to achieve what we are looking for in terms of employment. Thank you, Luis. The question from the audience will be for you, colleagues. In Latin American sector, where the productive sector is built by micro enterprises, how can we attract them as an actor on the training programs, and to how to help them to be consistent and keep in the labor market? Well, let's say that in this context, as we were mentioned before, we are working on a specific strategy for this objective. and we have decided to generate two stages, medium term and long term. In the shortest term, we have generate a strategy to finance this first stage on student trainings through a resource that we have to protect the tra- the workers who are training, and we want to connect a set of efforts that we are doing already, first to finance and second to generate different elements that will teach to companies how they can reduce the recruitment, the cost of recruitment, and how can they enhance their productivity with this group of people who will be coming to the productive environment in terms of dual training. We believe that dual training is an excellent opportunity to generate this group of responses, and so they can be able to have a closer approachment in this context. The companies have a very high difficult to be able to finance these first years or these first stages of the interns. And the other particular case, for example, is that companies have a high difficulty because the trainee time it's very short, and the trainees are 6 or 7 months company, and then they need to have a new trainee. So what we have done is to make it longer, so the training programs be longer, generating a more skilled worker, and generating a cost of opportunity, a lower cost of opportunity for the companies to decide who decide to have a training program. And we are looking for a strategy to involve micro companies. And with the financing strategy that we are going to start working on, we can generate benefits for these companies in medium term, and then we aim to generate the actors who will work on dual training. Well, I will talk about the competencies given by law. We are talking training, but we also have the banking system for development. We want to trigger the small companies in this country. We are giving incentives centered not only in innovation, but in other aspects that have been implemented in 2021 and 2022 that have to do with enterprising development centers. Uh, They aim to give opportunities through individual training or specialized in a specific sector be be followed up in the market. We also have a accelerating module with very successful programs such as the program Live, and with specific support so that we can, in an articulated way, help the companies who require this follow up. I also would like to mention that with the implementation of dual training, if we are working with our first group, a big company such as Intel, the program is not only for big companies. We have a special resources fund for those small companies who would like to participate with who would like to participate in this dual program, and we are training professors in dual programs but also mentors in the companies so they can find attractive this program to have people training in their companies. The need of students of the INA have an aggregated value, not only in terms of technical skills, but also with enterprising practicum. Having a law that support us, we have a huge window of opportunity to incorporate the small companies in this novel process. And we need to enclose this debate. I would just like to share two ideas, and one of them is that we have a lot of innovation already running to have these actors achieving the the challenges that they are facing, and also we need a lot of institutional articulation in the public sector, but also more association between the public and the private sector. And in this term, we need to have these actors, especially in terms of training. And it's very important to achieve something that is fundamental, the need to align the training offering with the needs of the productive sector, and also to give a special place in the governance sector of the labor training. So I believe that this is a good opportunity to address. And I can keep mention that the social dialogue, it's like is based in the active labor market policy and the training labor training policy. We are running out of time, so thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo. Thank you, Sophia, Alicia, Luis, for this interesting panel. It takes us to the implementation of public policies that are being carried out in these countries to have better jobs and to prepare the qualifications of people, among other things. Now we're going to start the second panel, which will be directed by Gloria Arredondo. She's senior expert of the Eurosocial program. Gloria will introduce her guest. We're going to have Igor Dedic and other participants. So, Gloria, thank you, Jimena. We're so used to having the mask that I didn't even know I had it. Okay, we're going to speak about innovation. So in this panel, we're going to speak about innovations and transformations in technical and professional education in the framework of the mega trends that Francesco mentioned, and specifically in digital and green challenges. So green and digital skills they won't stop. We have to position ourselves in this eco-social transition, this ecological transition. So this is a reality. There's no option, there's no alternative. We're transiting towards an ecological change. And for this, we need new skills, new jobs, and we're going to focus on this. And also the digital skills. We cannot work without these skills. If we speak about quality jobs, and this comes together with digital skills. We're going to speak about these two, and we're going to keep speaking about innovations. And we're going to do it through different points of view. On one side, we're going to see it from the projection of green jobs. And we're also going to see it from the quality of training for jobs. In the end, we're going to see it also from the point of view of certification of labor skills, mainly those that are acquired from experience, which has been approached in this seminar too. And we have three people here, three very dear people. Thank you for being with us. And I will give a special thank you to these two colleagues that you can see on the screen. They're connected in Europe with a difference of 8 hours. So right now it's night over there, and they're here with us. So I'm going to present them. I'm going to introduce them to you. We have Carolina Ferreira. She's a technical expert of green jobs of the OIT, PhD in philosophy and master in international relationships of the Institute of Geneva. She also studied in the University of Sao Paulo. And also we have here Ilana Medrakat. She's politologist expert in education, and she works as an associate researcher of the Federal Institution of Professional Education in Germany. She has coordinated projects of professional training in different countries. And she's been working for a long time as a director of international projects of the Department of Federal Institute of Professional Education in Germany. So this is the BIBB in Germany. And she works with Latin America and Caribbean. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Ilana. And we have Igor here. He's from Chile. He's from the Pontificia Universidad de Chile. And he's an expert in certification of labor competencies. He's a PhD student for the Universidad de Barcelona. She's in charge of Chile Valora. It's the organism in Chile which deals with certification of skills, and he represents the expert of groups of the Alliance of the Pacific, with which Eurosocial is progressing more on a system of homologation of skills in the Alliance of the Pacific, with the 4 countries that make it up. We're going to use this. We're going to do it in the same way as the previous panel. We have different points of view, and I'm going to ask all these 3 people to project, to give us their own ideas, to give us their own ideas on the innovations. We're going to have 2 sets of questions, and we're going to do it just as we did it before. First is going to be Carolina, then Ilona, and then Igor. So we're going to start with the first question right away. We're focused on innovations, and here's the question. What innovations are necessary in the national qualification systems, not to incorporate anymore, but to accelerate the effective incorporation of digital skills and of the skills of the so-called green jobs? Each of you has about 6 minutes. I'll try to be very punctual with time to respect everybody that follows us on streaming and here. So please, Carolina. Thank you very much, Gloria. Good afternoon, everybody. First, I wanted to thank Eurosocial for the invitation. I'm very glad to participate here on this panel discussion. Well, as we know, the development of professional skills is key for the potential of green jobs. So I think it's important to note that a transformation towards more green economies has an influence on the necessities of working skills. So that transition will have some loss regarding jobs in many sectors, such as coal, for example, and sectors that depend on fossil fuels. Meanwhile, in other sectors, more green sectors, there will be more jobs, significantly more jobs, especially in renewable energy, waste disposal, sustainable agriculture, and others. So there will be loss and gain, but we believe that in our region we will have a positive balance with 15 million jobs. So it's something positive. And of course, in this transition of activities, economic activities, this will also be reflected in the demand for new jobs, and also on the transformation of jobs that already exist, but that will become more green. And for this, we need new training courses, adaptation of the academic systems. Now, on innovations, on necessary innovations, we know that this transition will need more systematic revision and integrated of the systems of education. This revision has to include an adaptation of all the plans of study plans and of qualifications on a transversal manner in order to reconvert the human resources and do it properly for the green jobs that we will be needing. And we need now that we will be needing in the future. Those abilities and skills can be technical, can be digital, can be human, and also what we call the STEAM, for example, mathematics, engineering, and these are very relevant for a green economy. So we want to offer the students and the employees the necessary skills so they can be active agents in this change, so that we can also progress together. And at the end, I want to comment to that we also need new focuses for learning and teaching. During the pandemic, we learned a lot. We've learned a lot on this. So we will be trying to include new ways, innovative ways to apply the systems of education. For example, on focuses centered on the students, and also the learning based on projects. And all of this contributes to the adaptation on new systems, and also to adapt to the preferences of students. And at the same time, will be create a learning environment that will be more stimulating and more practice oriented, and it will also benefit in this transition toward more green economies. Thank you very much for this very precise answer. Okay, Ilana, please. Good afternoon, good night here in Europe. I thank you very much for the invitation, and I would like to greet all the panelists and all the audience who are watching us in streaming. So I greet you from Bonn in Germany. Well, the BIB who I represent. So when I speak about professional training, this system that you've been speaking about, it's the main system in Germany. In Germany, we have dual education in all of the more than 300 professions that are recognized in our country. Well, you know that this dual education takes place in two places: the enterprise or the business and the school. So in time, it's 70% in the business and 30% in the school of professional training. And these careers long 2 or 3.5 years. We have 2.3 million apprentices, and enterprises, most of the enterprises educate students with the dual education. In Germany, we have two basic criteria of quality, which are important to see where we introduce the innovations: the green innovations and digital innovations. In Germany, it's important, it's very important. Well, what you've heard is very important. The collaboration between the state and the enterprises. The learning is very important during the job. So for the research is also very important. Research on training. In order to answer what innovations are necessary in professional education as to the green skills and digital skills, we're speaking about how and what. For Germany, regarding digitalization and green economy, the same mechanisms that we have used in the education system, which are specific to professional training, are being challenged in the future. For example, if we want to have no emissions, what does this mean for the market of education and of professional training? This shows that this has consequences in the labor market. And to counter these effects, we need a good cooperation between science, which measures and analyzes data, the enterprises, and the state. The first criterion is that the German dual education system has very clear systems of cooperation between enterprises and their social partners, so that they have shared responsibilities. And the BIB in Germany, where I work, also shares responsibility with all of the actors that are involved. So we carry out also research, and we collaborate with the other ministries, such as energy and economics, the different states as well. We all have this parliament of the dual education, where we all make decisions, and everybody has a voice. So because of all of this, the decisions in the end have an influence on all of the labor market. We have national standards that come from this, which help us to develop on the new innovations. We know that professional training has to be adapted to changes in the world of work. So a special characteristic as to the dual education system in Germany is that we constantly adapt to the necessities of the economy, independently from the sustainability or digitalization topic, but for the creation of new programs of education. So we think about modernization and new standardization of professional education. So these innovations have to take into account the different phases of dual education, both in the digital topic and also on the green jobs topic. And digitalization, as I said, as it moves very fast. It has to be updated throughout all the professional life. So the innovations in professional training have to contemplate phases of professional education from continuous training, formal and non-formal, transitions between professional education and higher education. All of these have to take into account the qualification of teachers, which is very important for the implementation of quality and professional training. And all of these points are very important for the innovation of professional training. Thank you, Lana. Now, please, Igor, you have 6 minutes. Thank you very much. I'm Gloria, and thank you everybody here, and thank the Eurosocial program. We are very thankful to the Alliance of the Pacific. I would like to, before answering the question, I would like to contextualize an element which I think is very important, that has to do with, well, nowadays in these events, we don't have a discussion on the certification of labor skills. We don't say that it's a very important, a key element for a job for all the life. We shouldn't forget that this is a recent condition. It's a very important condition that wasn't very common to speak about. So this is about training and having education for all the life. We didn't speak about this very often in the past. It wasn't part of what we spoke about when we spoke about labor some years ago, and now it is. So now we have a more of a holistic view. Why do I say it like that? Because the work that we have been carrying out with the Alliance of the Pacific, the 4 countries that make up this alliance, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, and Chile, we propose the idea of generating processes that would be recognized, processes to recognize the different certifications using different, we were pressed by different, by migration, for example, in Venezuela, where there are a lot of people that arrive in the countries without any way to prove that they can contribute something to the labor market. Also, in the training of young people. So now we have an important variety of opportunities to certify skills. So we said, we want to work to generate a system to recognize and the presidency of the Alliance of the Pacific supported us. And these come from agreements between the presidents of the 4 countries. So that we have technical groups, and we, for example, we belong to the labor team. So we've all been working together. For example, you've worked, for example, you carried out this study that we use a lot to compare data with a stronger methodology. And the main finding, in that study that you carried out is that the systems have the possibility to articulate, to work together, because they have political, strategical elements together. that are equivalent. And we started working, being supported by Eurosocial. Eurosocial supported us to establish a route to see how we would carry out this recognition of skills. And now we're designing a pilot that we're going to implement this year. And now I'll get to innovation, to the topic of innovation. There's an innovation that was recognized by the European Union. It's saying that this effort that is being conducted, to recognize those certifications, labor skills, is an effort that can be compared to what is carried out with education, but it's not exactly that. So we're working to have it. As to the topic of green jobs, in these countries, we are speaking about the graduality with which this certification of working skills and these green jobs, now it's being more important, it's being more transcendent. So we went from something less complex to something more complex, which is recognizing inside the catalogs of professional skills. All of these catalogs are built based on social dialogue in a tripartite way, from the recognizing of those standards of skills in our catalogs, all the way to being involved in policies or national strategies. I'm going to name some. For example, the policy of green growth in Colombia has a chapter that has to do with human resources and speaks about a fair transition to incorporate new workforces. In Mexico, for example, the net of women in energy efficiency has a component of gender. In Chile, the law of responsibility extended to the producer, where they recognize the work of recycling as a key point. So so we recognize the skills of that person. We speak about electromobility, etc. So as to innovation, as for example, the certifications are now recognized as a factor that helps us to explain learning. As this factor is recognized, as it is more explicit as an element that articulates and generates opportunities for people, becomes more important. I believe, but I hope I were wrong, but I believe that in the different devices of public policies and labor, I think that certification of professional skills and the systems of certifications are those that have a higher importance, will have a higher importance in social policies, because it has a methodology and it's explicit. So there's no possibility to work in another way inside these systems. Thank you very much. I'm just going to mention 3 innovations. Carolina said, let's work with jobs that have technical skills that help us to adapt to the new demands. So we mean that green jobs have to do with the transitions, especially transiting from jobs that have to do with fossil fuels. She did not only that, but there has to be a logic of different skills of understanding the world in this green transition, which will allow people to act responsibly with those transformations that are big challenges. That's what Caroline said. Johannes mentioned that from her institute, dual education is evidently Well, of course, we know that the German model is very important for Europe and also for Latin America. It's important to articulate what she said that it's important to articulate enterprises and institutions. They don't think about articulation anymore. No, they have a council, like a parliament, where they dialogue, they make decisions, and everything is transparent and efficient. And I want to mention that because it's a very clear tool on how we can carry out this dialogue, on how enterprises and employment policies are together. And the third point, Igor mentioned the certification of skills acquired through experience. These certifications are our best ally to recognize skills. Not just because it recognizes what people can do, but there's no other way except by having a tripartite dialogue, and it will have institutionalization. It will accelerate the training of people in this learning for life logic, in this case, oriented to green and digital skills. This is a very important ally. The certifications of professional skills are a very important ally. So please, instead of 6 minutes, I'm going to ask you for 5 minutes. So here come the next questions. Here's the question. We have identified innovations, some very concrete. All innovations come with obstacles, risks, and problems. Please identify for us, what are the obstacles that you are already seeing, and suggest some possibilities to overcome those obstacles. First Carolina, then Ilana, and then Igor. 5 minutes, please. Carolina, please. Thank you, Gloria. Well, briefly, I think that the main difficulty to practice these innovations has to do with the response to the urgence of climate change. We know that actions as mitigation and adaptation to climate change have to be done now, immediately. We don't have time to lose. We are in a climate emergency. What we have to do here is make these institutions, educational institutions, give a swift response to those new necessities, as I commented before. So what are the new occupations, green occupations? What sectors? How many new jobs will be created? What is the profile of these jobs and the workers that we need for these jobs? It has to do with anticipating the skills that we will need for a green economy. However, we have observed that we don't have enough data to classify these green jobs in many countries. So to face this challenge, we have to carry out assessment and monitor these green jobs. I think that Igor mentioned briefly the case of Colombia. Just as an example, we helped Colombia to elaborate a study on human resources in specific circular economy enterprises. In this case, it was about used tires and electronic waste. But there's another point there in this kind of analysis, and we also have to consider genre questions to ensure gender equality, because according to the new studies, the new jobs will be in sectors that are mainly for men, that are mainly where men are usually or have have these jobs already. And we have to make sure that there are also opportunities for women. Another very important point is to establish political coherence, to look for a connection between the objectives and the climate urgencies. And this has to be also connected with public services of employment, and look for that political coherence between the relevant parts, as well as a construction, a creation of an institutional framework to incorporate those innovations that we're speaking about today, and to establish clear compromises for the effective application and implementation of these plans to develop skills. We need, of course, we need resources, not just monetary resources, but also technical and human resources. And for this, the public-private alliances are very important. Of course, they're key for this. Collaborating with businesses, collaborating with unions, with governments in this process of greening. As the last point, we have the social tripartite social dialogue, which is very important for the work we have carried out in the OIT. It's very important so that social partners have a participation in the design, but also the application and revision of the methods of social and professional training. And in the end, I just want to mention some support that the OIT can give everybody to overcome these challenges. We have Center for, there are courses on skills for a green future, which are offered every year. If you're interested, there's a lot of information on our website. There's also a new tool which has to do with the greening of the systems of professional training, and the objective is to offer a practical training for everybody who's involved in the elaboration of policies, the design of policies, and the application of professional training for ecological education. So if you want more information on this, we'll be glad to help you to develop these green skills. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carolina. So we also say that alliances are very important. The alliance with the OIT is very important. Ilana, it's your turn. You have 5 minutes. Thank you very much. I agree with what Carolina said. So these equations can be introduced in a different way. For example, the sustainable development is also important. I also want to speak about the changes in academic curricula, in rules, in the qualification of personnel, of staff for training to implement them in digitalization or in sustainable development, the creation of materials for learning and to apply them in specific fields. So in the subject of innovations, we are dealing with a change of paradigm. And we have to turn this into mechanisms to be implemented in education. We have to apply them in the different phases of professional training. Also in the creation of rules, creation of structures, as I said before, learning material. To me, this follows the logic of the structure that I already mentioned. So I think I'm positive. I'm positive about this. All we have to do is look for solutions. And it all comes down to how to adapt education to the world that changes. That's a big problem because climate change compels us to accelerate this. So the dual education gives dual workers that will have the necessary tools to learn for their life. I'm speaking about lifelong learning. So the same workers, the same place will give us solutions to adapt to this changing world. So this in the BEEP, we have carried out pilot projects in the area of professional education, following the agenda 2030 agenda for sustainable development. And based on this result, we have a very practical tool for the rules and standards of the nation. We introduced the so-called jobs post of standard profiles in the more than 300 profiles that we have. We have 4 fields. One, you're going to say is collective negotiation. Number 2, security and health and work, which are new rules, which are obligatory for all the systems of dual education. They're also innovative. And we have the field of competence and skills for the digital world and green jobs. So we're dealing here with the protection of the environment. We're including all of this has to do with revising the materials that we already have and we have to complement it with sustainability. Also the economic dimension and the social dimension. And we have to also reflect upon the change in new production chains. And we have to foster the proactive action by elaborating proposals of sustainable conduct in the environment of employment. And we have to also include all of this in the curricula in schools. The digitalization is also very important because it has to do with protection of data, but we also take into account communicative skills such as social diversity and the interaction with other people. These last points are not only in digital cooperation, but they are part of the digital employment work, where the tools are very important. In order to integrate sustainability in training, for example, in domestic economy, we revised the central processes and we saw the methodological, social, personal skills, and we transformed that into actions to change the paradigms in that sense. The same thing applies for different tasks. For example, in the steeling industry, we have to revise the training in other sectors too. So by changing little pieces, we change all the panorama to introduce innovations in the area of digitalization and sustainable development. Thank you. I'll try to take 3 minutes, okay? I don't have much to say regards to the urgency of the climate change, acceleration, transformations, and all that. I'll just tell you. I'll speak to you about three anecdotes. For example, energies. In the tripartite environment, there's a special area that is called non-conventional renewable energies. The Ministry of Energy asked us to change the name. So they asked us to eliminate non-conventional because energy has to consider also these energies. So they asked us to eliminate non-conventional, that part. The same energy sector was installed in Chile. In Chile, they installed a solar concentration energy, where there's like they have an important quantity of mirrors that concentrate the heat on a certain point. And this is a new technology. We work with them together to obtain profiles. For example, in Chile, there is no place to observe, to know what the skills necessary to work in a solar concentration plant. And the same thing is going to happen when we start working with green hydrogen. We won't have skills. We have a scenario that puts pressure on the system. It's not just let's make new jobs. Methodologically, how do we present an occupational profile? If we need to go observe, we need to go to, because there are new technologies that don't exist or that exist in other countries. So we are under pressure. Or for example, those profiles that change. For example, all the catalogs have profiles that have to do with installing, for example, air conditioning. These rules change every 2 years with respect on how you manage gases and residuals from these systems. What I want to say regarding this scenario, what I would say regarding obstacles, but I think there are also opportunities, and it makes us think. It makes, for example, in the Alliance of the Pacific, to generate catalogs that will be shared in, for example, in energy. How can I methodologically, how can I involve different countries to carry out the creation of these profiles, establishing plans, curricula? How do I involve these institutions? But the greater challenge is how to generate mechanisms of validation of the production sectors through social dialogue and a internationally. That's a big challenge. It can be very important. It will be very important to establish a catalog, a shared catalog in all of these jobs. So we will have also, apart from digital and green jobs, maybe there will be other new topics. So what are we going to do to make up these profiles? For example, this example I gave you about the solar concentration. How are we going to make these profiles? This is a problem. I wanted to be brief. We have to feel under pressure to start thinking about sharing technologies, sharing information, and to make this shared catalog of skills, of labor skills. Yeah, what Igor said and what our colleagues said is a big topic. We would be speaking here we would be able to make another seminar of these topics along. Are there any more questions? If there are any more questions, I'm just going to say 3 more things to conclude. A level of proposals. So, Carolina said, and also Leonardo Francesco spoke about this, the capability of managing. We need a lot of innovation But we also need that whoever makes these policies, whoever is designing the curricula and the plans, they must have the capabilities to do it. They must be capable of doing it. And we know that we don't have a lot of reference. We have to make up a lot of things, and we have to share them. Let's do it together. Let's adapt to reality. Lana said that we have to advance, we have to progress both in green and digital jobs. And she spoke about these standard profiles, which I think that are a good practice. Apart from catalogs of profiles and all of this that Germany works on dual education, they have to recognize some standard profiles that have to be applied to all the population that will be educated. So we have to advance toward this green transformation. And what Igor said, I'm not going to repeat it. Let's learn. This digital challenge and green job challenge compels us to adapt, because sometimes these transformations are arriving before the changes that we can actually make. So we have to catch up with them. And these profiles are universal. For example, managing solar panels, environment protection. And these must be carried out by all of us. And we should have the same methodologies by sharing. I think that some good suggestions have appeared on this panel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you. Ilana, Carolina, who are in Europe, they must be already under pressure by their families. So thank you very much, Igor. And we'll conclude this panel discussion.
Thank you, Gloria, and the two people who were together in this panel. I'm going to move to the stage, to have the conclusions and the enclosure of this seminar. I would like to call to Anita Cetina, General Secretariat of the Secretary of Social Integration of Latin America, SISCA. Anita, please. And Juan Manuel Santomé, Director of the Eurosocial Program. Please join me to have this last stage of conclusions and enclosure. Anita, please. And Juan Manuel. I have been asked a difficult task to be able to share with you some conclusions, some final conclusions of the challenges that employment transformation and economic recovery face today in this mutual dialogue between Latin America and Europe. And I would like to thank the Eurosocial Program for trusting in the University Hurtado from Chile, a university with a long journey and a strong social commitment, has been such experience participating in the organization not only of these seminars, but this innovation and social cohesion plaza to keep motivating to think on this topic. We need to execute this, and this is the most difficult part in the future. The first idea that I would like to share with you is that we are living deep and major transformations in terms of labor arising from global phenomena such as technology, demographic change, migration, among other processes. The labor markets are moving to new configurations, and along with the opportunities that they create, they have new opportunities and new risks. The traditional modalities of fixed and long-lasting job are disappearing. Transitions are more frequent among education and unemployment and different kind of jobs, generating more a an unknown scenario. The economic recovery arising from the pandemic makes this overview even more complex. And it seems that in the region we are not having enough jobs with a high quality and we have a high rate of unemployment. We have seen that the active policies in terms of labor market need to follow up this process as well as the economic recovery. We have seen that they need to be innovating and they need to generate decent employment centered on the most vulnerable sectors. Its innovation, its relaunch need political decision, have technical adequate technical design pertinent to new realities with professional skill teams duly trained and financing to make this strategy sustainable throughout the time. As we mentioned, all of this based on a systemic social dialogue with social actors involved, not in a one direction way, but with the workers, employers to make this sustainable. What will we need these new overviews are wide and are variable. And the priorities change in each country. Maybe efficient orientating programs, developing new training skills, or transition to green skills. We have emphasized the role of the public services for employment as a bridge among supply and demand, and the economic training in all the levels. It's very important the relation with the enterprises. We have been talking about this from the beginning. We need to reach out the enterprises. We need to make them participating to enhance the participation in this policy, dual participation to attract the enterprises to the social service, to the public services for employment, as well as the need to articulate the employment policies and the productive development. It means to broaden the debate with the Ministry of Treasury and the Ministry of Economy and the Ministry of Education. Also, I would like to highlight the very crucial role that have the certification bodies that allow the ongoing training of workers to be able to receive training throughout the life. And we can keep mentioning the crucial role that has the academic scope environment in this debate. We need the academy to connect with the social reality and be able to give information data to trigger good decision in labor policy and to trigger also more social dialogue. As university, we are implementing an dialogue index in a project called IDEAS, where we are proposing an indicator to measure the social dialogue, identify the strength, the weakness, so the public and private institutions may be able to enhance their social dialogue. And to conclude, without a population with updated skills and without the institutional skills that we require to update these skills, will be very difficult for the region to transit to one economy with productive jobs for all and to achieve the sustained development that the objectives of sustainable development have set. This is a set of conclusions. I hope that we were able to address the key points. And we thank you again for being able to participate as creates in this forum. We are now going to close the seminar, giving the word to Anita Stina, General Secretary of the General Secretariat of Assista, to share final thought. Thank you, Anita. Francesco Juan Manuel. It's a great honor to share with you this seminar where we have thought about the topics and all the works that we have towards us. We are very pleased to be able to follow up this seminar where the topics give us a lot of information, a lot of opportunities to think of the work that we are performing from the Secretariat with the countries. With the support of the Eurosocial Plus program, we have created a plan for the social recovery and resilience for Latin America and the Caribbean. We are very pleased with this process because has been based on a lot of consultation with the countries addressing very important topics for the post-pandemic recovery. And we have three key axes: the labor acts, and all the contributions that have been shared will help us to establish even more and work even more in the topics that were addressed today. We are actually working on the establishment of a seminar in Panama about the topic of employment for young adults. It's very important to address the topic of a topic that concerns to all the region that has to do with training and skills a of reinserted immigrants. So we want to warmly thank the European Union for this Euro Social Plus program, particularly to Francesco for these social programs and employment topics, and all the agencies collaborate to achieve the events that we have held and will be very useful. Also, I want to thank the government of Costa Rica because they were able to host this event. So thank you very much. I wish you the best, and we will keep collaborating to enhance our Central America region. And of course, Latin America in collaboration with the European Union. Now I give the word to Juan Manuel Santomé, Director of the European Program Europlus, to close this seminar. Well, good afternoon, all of you. It's great to be here. A couple of months ago, we were in Zoom, but the fact here has been a bit crazy, but it's great to be here. If your social program does is actually to create these links and create these spaces that, as we have seen in all the seminars, it's a common point and it's priority. Be able to come from a fragmentation to an articulation to create interaction spaces and coordinating these complementary aspects. I would like to thank Costa Rica, this great country, for hosting us, the foundation, and the University Alberto Hurtado that has been with us in this series of seminar and to share this dialogue index for a future and longer collaboration, to thank all the participants who are in also in live streaming, the European Union, the delegation and its participation, the Minister Lara, and a special thank to all of you. But also I would like to clap for the team of social policies from your social plus that have done a great work. So I would like to ask for claps for the team because it's a very huge work to organize this series of seminars. And we just see the pike of the iceberg, but there's a lot of work behind. Let's say that the depth and the honesty which these dialogue spaces are addressed that is missing in some other spaces. And this phrase that you, let's say, we need to honor what we say, honor the word, because we are doing a great effort. I was taking some notes in the beginning. Uh, I think you may have gathered a lot of ideas, but I want to mention some other ideas. Let's say, of course, is very pertinent the counterpoint for the society of the 140 characters. It's just the other point. We have delved, we have seen, we have participated, and this is important to transit from this simplicity to complexity. Well, the other idea is to rescue the need of centralization of the employment in the agenda of public policy. It's key in global, national and global terms. Also, the reforms that have been performed in the labor market that go beyond the labor policies. You have a wider overview. An important idea that gives name to this series of seminar innovation. We are in an innovation time. We have some good practices, good experiences. I think to the organizers for focusing in this topic, that we have hope in the future. And this term, it's very important. And related to this, I think it's very clear that we are facing a window of opportunities. We have challenges, we have risk. It's interesting to listen to a minister that the way to recover for economic recovery can come from the base. This means that maybe it's maybe we think it's impossible, but it's a scenario that it's there. So we need to face that we are in a historical moment, in a maybe a unique moment, and I think we have a window of opportunity. I need we also have a lot of hope. Well, and the employment will keep being the center of the agenda of the European agencies, and that's very important for Europe, their internal policies. And I think that for the cooperation topic, we need we may need to offer a cooperation program among Europe and Latin America in the future. Well, contextualizing these series of seminars are framed in a roadmap that began in Valparaiso, where we address the democratic governance as triggering points for new social aspects. We spoke about public finance, and we build new experiences to build these new social agreements. And it then in Paris, we address gender equity as another key point for these social agreements, especially speaking about the economic autonomy for of women. And we are closing these seminars with the topic of social policies, as it's mentioned in the title. This social and social cohesion and innovation plaza will gather maybe in Panama in the final meeting of this final phase that will be in June. And then in Brussels, that will be a very important moment, because there we can communicate with the European Commission. Doesn't want us only to share the results learning, but the experience of what we are doing here, paving the way for the Eurosocial 4 that will begin in the second half of 2023. And in this term, what have been instructed from Valparaiso, Panama, and will be brought to Brussels. And so this will be a very important moment. You are invited to connect. To enclose, I will the responsible of the politics section. The Union of Europe and Latin America are called to strengthen the partnership in the coming years. We faced a lot of challenges. We have talked about uh, we are in a crucial way and we need to be allies in this scenario that we are facing. And also, you know that your social shares expertise from Latin America and Europe. They have differences of there are differences, of course, but we share a lot of problems. We have generalized insatisfaction that have to do with the democratic quality, and all of this is related with inequity that leaves a lot of people behind. So in Latin America and Europe, there's a big insatisfaction, and we need to look for the solution collaborating as peers in the coming years. I would like to share with you a quote from the representative of the Higher Commission of the European Union because they are very related. Let me look for it. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Okay, this is younger than 1 week. We, since citizens are unsatisfied due to this crisis, the base of the problem is inequality, and society asks for response that traditional politics haven't been able to offer. The European project is states that we need to fight against inequality and we need to fight together. So this is to invite you to keep together and follow together. Thank you very much to all of you. Well, with the words of Juan Manuel Santomé, field of hope, keeping this cooperation path, we are going to close this seminar, which is the final of this series of seminars that began on the 20th of April in Santiago de Chile, and then we went to Buenos Aires on the 22nd, and today we finish in the in in the Innovation and Social Cohesion Plaza. We want to thank to all of you that are here gathered today and all of you who are connected through our live streaming. And we want to share with you that this seminar ends today, but we will have a continuous that won't be live, but will be recorded and will be shared in the website. It's a conversation with young people that because we don't want to listen only the expert, well, we want to listen to the young people who have been following up throughout the seminar. We are going to talk to them. What do they think, and what they expect from the different actors, and what do they have to contribute? We finished here, I think, again for this seminar, and we keep collaborating together in future opportunities. Thank you all.